such a joy to be back. I'm glad I didn't misbehave too badly the last time, so you invited me back. Some of you may know this song. Some of you may have forgotten this song. Some of you may have never even heard of this song. Google it. It's called Behind the Groove by Tina Marie from 1980. And the reason that I want to bring up this song is not because I'm going to bring up Rick James, because if I bring up Rick James, she's a super freak. You'll think about Rick James all during the sermon and you won't hear what I have to say. So I'm not going to bring that up. But Rick James was the protege of this artist named Tina Marie. And Tina Marie did a song in 1980 called Behind the Groove. And this song, Behind the Groove, had one of the most stunning opening lines I've ever heard. The opening line of the song Behind the Groove was, "There's another side inside of you. There's another side inside of you." And the whole song was actually spiritual, although it had a good beat, you could dance to it. It was a spiritual song. There is another side inside of you. What's behind the groove? What's behind the groove is this other side inside of you. That is love. That is grace, the transformative power of God, that when we tap into it in prayer and meditation, we feel the grace that transforms us from the inside and then radiates outwardly and transforms our world. It is peace, because when we are at one with God, there is only peace, because there is no conflict. There is not that urge to beat ourselves up, that urge to judge ourselves, that urge to separate ourselves from God, because when we are one with God, there is no separation. So how could there be conflict? We are what God created us to be. The other side inside of us knows only of strength. It has never known of weakness, for it knows of the power of God, for it lives and breathes and moves, as the song said, in the power of God. This other side inside of us. And this other side inside of us is confident, because it knows that, as A Course in Miracles says, a happy outcome is guaranteed. It knows of the ending. And when it knows of the ending, it doesn't worry about what's in the middle, amen? Because it knows no matter what this is, there is a lesson. I will learn it, I will grow from it, I will heal from it. It will take me higher. These are some of the attributes of what's behind the groove. That's the other side inside of each of us. So how do we become, because I know that's your theme for the month, how do we become the other side inside of us? How do we take that journey to get to the other side inside of us? Well, the title of my sermon is that it is easier than you think. We think it's this long, arduous journey, right? We think that we've got to go through and we've got to tick off every slight, every hurt, every pain, every doubt, and every fear from age 3 on, right? When we first became aware of our doubts, our fears, and our shames, right? And we think we've got to tick off each one, and we've got to pray each one out of the way, and we think we've got to work with each one. And yeah, we do, but we can do it in a wondrous and easy way. And the wondrous and easy way to do it is by using our superpower. Using your superpower to get to the other side inside of you. And what is your superpower? And this is the most important part of the sermon. So once I go off on my groove and start joking and riffing, remember this part, okay? Use your superpower. Is anyone here familiar with the Superman Marvel comic series? The Supergirl Marvel comic series? Anybody familiar with those? Well, Superman and Supergirl and Superboy and Superdog, they were all hiding in plain sight, right? So I'm just going to use Superman as the archetype for this. But Superman masqueraded around as Clark Kent, right? And as Clark Kent, he was this mild-mannered reporter for the Daily Beast or the Daily Globe or the Daily Mirror or the Daily, I don't know. The Planet, thank you. Thank you. He was the reporter for the Daily Planet. But Clark Kent was just his costume. Clark Kent was just his persona. He was from somewhere else. He was from somewhere else. What if you were from somewhere else as well? What if you came here for a brief visit of only 80 years or so? Please, 90. I like this incarnation. Give me 95. But 95 good ones. Okay? What if you just came here for 80 years? And what if that 80 years was just a drop in the bucket in the eternal experience of your soul? And what if that eternal experience of your soul was blissful, easy, and excellent? And you said, I'm going to put on a costume and learn a couple lessons. Learn those lessons easily and efficiently and be at one with God in a stronger way than ever before. And I can do this because it's only 80 years out of an eternity. Amen. What if your home was a place of joy? What if your home was a place of peace? What if your home was a place of love? What if your home was a place of harmony? What if your home was a place of ease and effortlessness? And what if your home came with you? You brought a dim memory of it. What if your home was within you and you knew that something wasn't right where you were living, that there was this other place, this other energy, this other experience that was awaiting you, this other side inside of you? What if you could rediscover that home because it was never a physical place? What if that home was a spiritual experience? What if that home was an internal being and you could get to it easily and effortlessly? But all you needed to do was use your superpower, right? Wouldn't you do that? Wouldn't you use your superpower? Well, anybody want to know what your superpower is? Yes. Okay. Well, your superpower is the superpower of choice. Your superpower is the superpower of choice. When something went wrong and Clark Kent was at the Daily Planet, he would take off his white button-down shirt. I'm not going to do that. That would be quite a sermon. He would rip off his white button-down shirt, right? And his voice would be high and squeaky at first, and he'd say, "This is a job." But by the time he got that shirt off, he'd say, "For Superman." He was in his deep voice. He was throwing bass, right? He was throwing power. He was throwing intention. He was throwing the blessed assurance of who he really was. Because in that moment, he made a choice. He made a choice to be Superman, not to be Clark Kent. Your superpower is choice. My superpower is choice. And that is the key to becoming. To choose to experience yourself as your highest self in your daily practice of prayer and meditation. I choose to be the beloved of God. And when you choose to be the beloved of God, not just in theory, but in practice, when you choose to infuse yourself with that energy and get familiar with and comfortable with yourself as love, and when you choose to get familiar with and comfortable with yourself as light, and when you choose to get familiar with yourself and comfortable with yourself as grace, by continually, repeatedly making that choice and being and living and moving in that energy, you change, you heal, you transform. That energy, that habit, that patterning changes your energy. It changes your habits. It changes your patterning. Instead of thinking, what if I fail? You start thinking, what if I succeed? Instead of start thinking, I am not, you start thinking, what I am. Instead of thinking, what I can't do, you start knowing what you can do. And when you do it with yourself, you do it with everybody else around you. Because just like this heater is throwing all kinds of heat on the back of my bald head, you start throwing light. And your path is lit, and your path is easy, and your path is effortless. So we choose to be ourselves in daily spiritual practice. But not only do you choose to be your highest self that you experience in meditation and daily spiritual practice, you choose to be your highest self when you're out on Broken Land Parkway, right? Because sometimes we forget, right? How many of us have gotten all prayed up in the morning? Or is it just me? How many of us have gotten all prayed up in the morning? And we've gotten on Columbia Pike, Broken Land Parkway, 95, the Baltimore Beltway or the DC Beltway. And the next thing you knew, things coming out of your mouth that you didn't even, words that you didn't even know you knew came out of your mouth, right? Oops, I forgot. Oops, I did it again, like Britney Spears would say. But you know what? Anytime we snap out, we can snap back. It's a reminder. This is not who you are. This is who you thought you were when you were in error. This is who you thought you were when you thought you were separate from God. This is who you thought you were when you forgot that there was one power, one grace, one energy, one light, and one mind, and you were part of it. And that one energy, that one grace, that one light, that one mind was simply love, and you are love. You forgot for a second, but you can choose again and choose again and choose again and choose again. And every time we choose, we more deeply establish the truth of who we are. So anything that has taken us out, caused us to snap out, caused us to forget, is just a teacher, a reminder. Ooh, this doesn't feel good. You can choose again. Ooh, I don't like this. I can choose again. Ooh, there's an error showing up in my face. This is a place where I judged or criticized myself, and it's coming back to me because she's in my face. I can choose again. Amen? How many has ever had their judgments or their criticisms up in their face in the form of another person, right? I want to work with that because that's what AO gave us today. Anybody ever have their judgments, their criticisms, or their doubts all up in their face? Or is it just me? Amen? And what do we do? Oh, this is a riff and I got to stop this. What do we do? We point at them, look at them, how bad they are. Look at them. They're a victimizer. Look at them. They're so mean. But you know, when we're pointing at them, we've got three fingers pointing back at ourselves. Because everything I see begins and ends with me. This is a part of my consciousness that I need to be made aware of so that I can choose again. This is a part of my consciousness that I am not, because I am not this consciousness. Because if I were the consciousness I really am, I would be in love right now, not in conflict. If I were the consciousness I really am, I would be in peace right now, not in doubt. If I were the consciousness I really am, I would be in confidence. I would be in clarity. I would be in surety. So this is an opportunity to choose. So let's reframe this. Anytime we are experiencing something we do not enjoy, it is simply an opportunity to choose. Who's with me? That's your superpower. You can choose something different. You can choose in this moment, God, I let you in. You can choose in this moment, God, this is not who I am. I forgot. Remind me. And because you develop such a strong, just like we go to Zumba class. This is a riff. I got to stop it. Just every time you go to Zumba class, you know what? Your heart gets stronger, right? Your sense of rhythm gets stronger because you're doing the Zumba, right? Your stamina, you get more stamina, right? Because you're doing the Zumba. Guess what? You're conditioning yourself. Well, each time you go into prayer, each time you're going into meditation, each time you go into oneness consciousness, it's like Zumba with God. You're getting stronger. You're developing more faith. Your knowing goes deeper and deeper into every level of your consciousness, into every cell and sinew and muscle and tissue in your body, and into every aspect of your memory, and into every part of you that creates. Amen? So you can choose. You can choose to experience yourself and choose over and over again to experience yourself as your highest self. And you can choose that new persona. You can choose that new persona. What is the persona that you choose? A persona of love or a persona of fear? A persona of faith or a persona of doubt? A persona of yes or a persona of no because it didn't happen in the past? Amen? What is the persona that you choose? You can choose your new persona because each time you go into prayer and meditation, you are facilitating a transformation that is mystical and powerful. I'm not going to tell you the whole story because some of you learned it from Sunday school, and that is the story of Paul and Saul. And those of you who don't know the Bible, Saul was this guy who would go out and he would hunt the Christians in early Christianity, right? He would go out and hunt them because they were persecuted, right? And he said, I'm going to go to Damascus and I'm going to hunt me down some Christians, right? And so Paul was on his way to Damascus on a donkey, right? And he was on the way to Damascus on his donkey. He was riding his donkey, and God knocked him off that ass. Blinded him for 3 days. When he opened his eyes, he saw things differently. When he opened his eyes, he was a new person. He was Saul, not Paul. Now, I don't know if this story ever happened. It was probably symbolic. It was probably a metaphor. But it's a good metaphor, right? Because it is indicative of the transformative power of God and God's grace. And all of a sudden, Paul became like the biggest proponent of Christianity. What a transformation, right? Well, guess what? We can all transform from that persona that we thought we were into the persona that God created us to be through prayer, through meditation, through daily spiritual practice, and through the grace of God that we avail ourselves to with prayer, meditation, and daily spiritual practice and release work, which is the end of this sermon. I'm going to get to it soon. And guess what? That transformative power doesn't transform us into something different. And this is very important. That transformative power of God is not transforming us into something different. That transformative power of God is transforming us back to who God created in the first place before we put on the costume. That transformative power of God is transforming us back into God's intention for us, transforming us back into the love God created as us, transforming us back into God's intention to move through us. So it's not transforming us into something else. It's transforming us from what we're not into what God created in the first place, and we forgot about it. Amen? A Course in Miracles lesson 94 says, I am still as God created me. I forgot and I got confused and I got it twisted, and I believed I was small. I believed I was unloved. I believed I was unlovable. I believed the world was against me. I believed that God didn't see me, didn't value me, and I forgot these things. But within me, there is this place, this other side inside of you, that I am still as God created me. And then we can choose a new vision. Just like Paul got knocked off, got blinded for 3 days, and he came out with a new vision. We can choose a new vision. Amen? Amen. Didn't we just choose a new vision here? Yes. Amen. We can choose a new vision. Let me see this differently. A Course in Miracles lesson 16, which is the crux of the course. Oh, you know what? I forgot to turn on my mic. Am I okay back there? Okay. With my big mouth, I figured I was. A Course in Miracles lesson 16 says, let me see this differently. Let me see all things differently. Let me see myself differently. Instead of seeing myself as separate from God, unloved, instead of seeing myself as weak, instead of seeing myself as unseen, unheard, or unimportant, let me see myself as the vessel through which God creates a unique aspect of God's mosaic and God's intention. Let me see myself differently. Let me see the world differently. Instead of me seeing the world as a wicked, hostile place and as an outpicturing of the person I was and its fears and its doubts and its shames, let me see the world as this wondrous playground where God's good is shown to me as I show myself the good of God that I am, and remember that. Let me see God differently. Let me see God as present, not absent. Let me see God as loving unconditionally, not judgmental. Let me see it differently. And in every situation, let me see it differently. This is not a confrontation with my coworker. This is a cry for love. Let me repeat that. This is not a confrontation with my coworker. This is an invitation to love. Somewhere love is not flowing the way God intends it, either through me or through them or through both of us. And when we're not aware of love, we're in fear, we're in doubt, we're in shame, and we want to shame and blame somebody else. And we get into arguments, right? Whether it be with our coworker, whether it be with our husband, our wife, our spouse, whether it be with the spouse who forgot to show up. Anybody ever have a spouse who forgot to show up and they've been forgetting to show up for 10 years? We get angry at them and they're not even there yet, right? Let me see this differently. This is just an invitation for love where I do not perceive love's presence. Let me see this differently. And let me show you how this works in real life. I try not to get into stories because they get long, but I'm going to do one. A dear friend was at work, and we had been working with this, right? And so she was at work, and one of her coworkers was dressing her up one side and dressing her down the other, right? And she said, she just breathed, and she thought, let me see this differently. And all of a sudden, her vision was different. She didn't see her coworker as the coworker haranguing her. She saw the coworker and the coworker's pain, the coworker's needs. All of a sudden, she saw the coworker as a child having a tantrum. And what she did, she said, this is a cry for love. She just stood there and she just took it. And she just brought in the love of God. And she said, he's not talking to me. Just like, remember Taxi Driver when Robert De Niro said, you talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? She said, she's not talking to me. He's not talking to me because I'm the beloved of God. He's talking to who he projects me to be based on his own pain. He's a child wanting mommy. So I'll bring in the Mother God, and I'll allow the Mother God to move through me, for I am a vessel of God, and I will embrace the hurt and the pain of this person. And she started, without even knowing it, she started putting her hands out like this, and she started sending healing to this person. She told me the story, right? And she started sending healing to the person. And all of a sudden, the person started calming down. And all of a sudden, the person just stopped. And all of a sudden, the person realized what was happening. And all of a sudden, the person just said, thank you, and left. And that was because she chose a new vision. And that is what we can all do. We can allow ourselves to be what we were. It's not a long journey. It's a journey we take 1,000,000 times a day. But as Lao Tzu said, the longest journey is 1,000,000 steps. We choose every day. We choose every moment. We choose every second. And each time we choose, we are choosing to be more of who we are and less of who we weren't. More of who God made us to be and less of who we thought ourselves to be based on what the world told us. And let me tell you a little secret. You see this in nature all the time. And let me tell you this little secret. Because leaves, you know how we go around in the fall? It's fall right now, right? And a few weeks ago, we were all skipping around. Oh, look at these beautiful leaves. Look at these beautiful colors, right? Anybody go skipping in the leaves after snow blowing them for 17 hours if you've got a big lot? Well, leaves don't turn all those brilliant colors in the fall. Listen to this. Leaves don't turn all those brilliant colors in the fall. Conditions change. There's less sunlight. And less sunlight means that the leaves produce less chlorophyll. And when the leaves produce less chlorophyll, the leaves can't produce green. And when the leaves stop producing green, the reds and the yellows and the browns and the oranges and the purples come out. But they were there all the time, amen? Well, you, that other you inside of you, that other me inside of me is there all the time. Just like Superman was hiding in Clark Kent, it has been hiding in plain sight. So it's not about becoming someone else. It's about allowing who God made you to be to come forward. It's kind of like a spiritual striptease, right? Stripping off all those things we thought we were. Stripping off all those things others projected onto us, stripping off their extra expectations, stripping off their criticisms, stripping off their doubts that they projected on us based on their lives and their limitations, right? Stripping off the conditioning we've received, stripping off all of that. And the only thing that remains is what God put there in the first place. And that is the love that lives within you. So the bottom line for all of us is we work this through with our daily spiritual practice, where we strip off the shame and the guilt and the unknowingness of ourselves, and all that is left is the God within. Our superhero awaits us, each and every one of us. It's within us all along. Just like Clark Kent had to take off that suit and tie to become Superman, we have to take off all of the things our costumes imply. Our name, our rank, our serial number, our race, our gender, our age. None of it matters. None of it matters. None of it matters. None of it matters because it's not who we are. It's just the costume, just like we wore a costume on Thanksgiving. I mean, wrong holiday. On, what's that holiday where we wear costumes? Thank you. And that who we are hasn't changed. 1 Corinthians 13th chapter says tongues change, fashions change, customs change. You know, fashions change. I used to have hair and a big afro. Fashions change. I used to have bell-bottom jeans and platform shoes. Bodies change. I used to have a 28-inch waist. All of that stuff can change. You know what doesn't change? The God within. That aspect is still there, waiting for us to call upon it daily in our daily spiritual practice, in our daily spiritual experience, and waiting to come out, waiting to be welcomed, waiting to express through us. And that aspect will lead us to our good. Rumi, the Sufi poet, said it best when Rumi said, "We do not have to search for love. Love." Oh, dang it, I forgot it. I knew I should have typed it. We do not have to search for love. Dang it, I forgot it. I knew I should have typed it. We do not have to search for love. We just have to remove the barriers to the love that already is there. Yes. Amen? Amen. So, I know you're doing New Vision right now. I know you're doing New Intention right now. As we move into the darkest of days and we await the light new light has a new creation. The new light has a new vision for all of us. The new light has a new intention for each and every one of us individually and collectively as an organization. So the question is, what do you choose to release in order that which you are can emerge? That's the question that I'll leave you with, but I want to thank you with the fact that this journey of becoming is already done. All it requires is releasing what you're not and welcoming what you are. And that's what I want to say to you today. Thank you very much.